Hello, today we're going to have Alfie Gives the Hand, which is by Shirley Hughes. And we're in the garden because the story happens in the garden. One day when Alfie came home from nursery, he had a card with him in an envelope. His best friend Bernard had given it to him. He showed it to Mummy. "Look, it's got my name on it," said Alfie, pointing. "Mum said that it was an invitation to Bernard's birthday tea party." How exciting! There he is getting ready for the party. "Will it be at Bernard's house?" Alfie wanted to know. He'd never been there before. Mum said yes, and she told him all about birthday parties and how you had to take a present, and about the games and how there would be nice things to eat. Alfie was very excited about Bernard's party. When the day came, Mum washed Alfie's face and brushed his hair and helped him put a clean t-shirt on and his brand new shorts. There he is, having his face washed and his nose wiped. He asked his mum some questions about the party. "You and Annie Rose are going to be at the party too, aren't you?" asked Alfie. "Oh no," said Mum. "I'll take you to Bernard's house, and then Annie Rose and I will go to the park, and I'll come back to collect you when it's time to go home." "But I want you to be there," said Alfie. Mum told him that she and Annie Rose hadn't been invited to the party, only Alfie, because he was Alfie's special friend. "You don't mind my leaving you, do you? You don't mind when I leave you at nursery, so you won't mind being at Bernard's house either. You'll be fine when you get there." There he is, looking a little bit worried, isn't he? Mum had bought some crayons for Alfie to give to Bernard for his birthday present. When she went upstairs to wrap them up, he went to his bedroom and found his blanket under his pillow. He had an old bit of blanket which he kept in bed at night with him, and he brought it downstairs and he sat down to wait for Mum. There he is, holding his blanket. Some children, maybe you did this, they have a little bit of blanket and they like to hold it and cuddle it, and it makes them feel a little bit safe when things are scary. "You won't want your old blanket with you at the party," said Mum when it was time to go. But Alfie wouldn't leave his blanket behind. He held it tightly in one hand and Bernard's present with the other, all the way to Bernard's house. And when they got there, there's Bernard's mum at the party. Bernard's mum opened the door. "Hello, Alfie," she said. "Let's go into the garden and find Bernard and the others." And then Mum gave Alfie a kiss and said goodbye, and she went off to the park with Annie Rose. Now the party looks lovely. I told you it was in the garden. Can you see that? It looks very nice, doesn't it? Balloons in the tree. "Would you like to put your blanket down here with the coats?" asked Bernard's mum. Alfie didn't want to put his blanket down. He still held onto it very tightly. Bernard was in the garden with Min and Sam and Daniel and some other children from the nursery school. "Happy birthday," he remembered to say when he gave Bernard his present. Bernard pulled off the paper. "Crayons! How lovely," said Bernard's mum. "Say thank you, Bernard." "Thank you," said Bernard. But what do you think he did next? He threw the crayons up in the air. They landed all over the grass. "That was a silly thing to do," said Bernard's mum, and she picked up the crayons and she put them away. Then Bernard's mum brought out the bubbles. And she blew lots of bubbles into the air. They floated all over the garden, and the children jumped up and down trying to pop them. Alfie couldn't pop many bubbles because he was holding onto his blanket, but Bernard jumped about and pushed and popped more bubbles than anyone else. "Don't push people, Bernard," said Bernard's mum sternly. One huge bubble landed on Min's sleeve. Oh, look at that. All shiny and quivering. Min smiled and she stood very still. Then Bernard came up behind her and popped the big bubble. He's being very silly today, isn't he? Min began to cry. There she is crying. Mum was cross with Bernard and told him to say sorry. "Never mind, dear," she said kindly. "We're going to have tea now. Who would you like to sit next to?" Min said that she would like to sit next to Alfie. She stopped crying and pulled her chair right up close to his. For tea, there were sandwiches and little sausages on sticks and crisps and jellies and a big iced cake with candles on and "Happy Birthday Bernard" written on it. Well, that's very nice, isn't it? Not after tea, Bernard took a huge breath and he blew out all the candles at once. And everyone clapped and sang, "Happy birthday to you." And then Bernard blew into his lemonade through his straw and made rude bubbling noises. He blew into his jelly too, and his mum took it away from him. He's being a bit silly today. Alfie liked the tea, but holding onto his blanket made eating rather difficult. It got all mixed up with the jelly and crisps and covered in sticky crumbs. After tea, Bernard's mum said that they were all going to play a game. But Bernard ran off and fetched his very best present. It was a tiger mask. Bernard went behind a bush and came out wearing the mask and making terrible growling noises. He went crawling around the garden, sounding very fierce and frightening. Min began to cry again. She clung on to Alfie. "Get up at once, Bernard," said Bernard's mum. "It's not that kind of game. Now let's all stand in a circle, everyone, and join hands." There she is. She's getting a little bit cross with him, isn't she? Bernard stopped growling, but he wouldn't take off his tiger mask, and instead he grabbed Alfie's hand to pull him into the circle. Bernard's mum tried to take Min's hand and bring her into the circle, but Min wouldn't stop crying, and she wouldn't hold anyone's hand. She cried and cried. Oh dear. Then Alfie made a brave decision. He ran and put down his blanket in a safe place underneath the table. Now he could hold Min's hand as well as Bernard's. Min stopped crying. She wasn't frightened of Bernard in his tiger mask now that she was holding Alfie's hand. She joined in the game, and they all danced round together, singing, ring a roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down. And there they are, all fallen down on the floor. Do you know that game? Afterwards, Alfie and Min joined in with some more games, and they had ice cream and popcorn and bounced balloons with the others. Alfie had such a good time that his blanket stayed under the table until Mum and Annie Rose came to collect him. Here's Mum with Annie Rose, because it's time to go home now. What a helpful guest you've been, Alfie, said Bernard's mum when Alfie thanked her and said goodbye. Min wouldn't have enjoyed the party a bit without you. It's nice, isn't it? I do wish Bernard would learn to be helpful sometimes. Perhaps he will one day. Though he is still being a bit silly. I'm sure he will learn to be sensible and helpful. On the way home, Alfie carried his blanket in one hand and a balloon and a packet of sweets in the other. His blanket had got a bit messy at the party. It had been rather in the way too. Next time he thought he just might leave it safely at home after all. Because he's a big boy now and maybe he doesn't need his comfort blanket anymore. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.